Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we'll be solving Leetcode problem 2155. Find all possible recipes for given supplies. Okay, problem statement states you have information of n different recipes. You you are given a string array recipes and a 2D strings array ingredients. Okay, the ith recipe has names name recipes of I, and you can create it if you have all the needed ingredients from ingredients of I. Okay, the recipe can also be an ingredient of other recipes, that is ingredient I may contain strings that is in the recipes. Okay, you have you are also given a string array supplies containing all the ingredients that you initially have, and you have an infinite supply of all of them. Return all the list of recipes that you can create. Okay, return a list of all the recipes that you can create. You may return the answer in any order. Okay, so let's take an example what they are trying to say. We have recipes uh, as bread, and in order to make bread recipe we need these ingredients. Okay, that is yeast and flour. Okay, so we have been given these supplies. Okay, we can use these supplies infinite number of times, and our aim is to identify whether this recipe can be formed or not. Okay, in order to form bread I need yeast and flour, both are in my supplies, so then as a result I can form bread. Okay, so let's take another example. Okay, let me type it, let me open my notepad and let me explain you. Okay, so here we have been given okay, let me tell you orally. Okay, so we have something called bread can be formed using yeast and flour. Okay, and next we have sandwich. Okay, sandwich can be made of bread and meat. Okay, so we have sandwich which is prepared from bread and meat. Okay, if you see the recipe 2 is depending upon the recipe 1 here. Okay, so this is one of the property which they have mentioned, and yeah, so we have been given supplies as yeast, flour and meat. Okay, so what all recipes can I make with help of these supplies? Okay, if I include yeast and flour, then I can form bread. Okay, the other recipe I can make is basically, first I will make bread. Okay, using yeast and flour. First I will make bread. Once bread has been made I will take meat, and then again I can make sandwich. Okay, so both the recipes here can be prepared. Okay, if you see here, okay, sandwich is actually depending upon two things. Sandwich is depending upon meat, and sandwich is also depending upon the bread. Okay, and bread is actually depending upon flour and yeast. Okay, so in order to make bread, okay, I need flour and I need yeast. If any one of these are missing, then I cannot make bread. Okay, so it's like more or like a dependency we have among in this particular tree kind of structure. Okay, so for a given bread I should, for a given recipe I should identify whether all my ingredients can be prepared or not. Okay, so here we'll be using something kind of DFS kind of thing. Okay, first in order to uh, sandwich can only be prepared if its dependents can be prepared. So first from sandwich I will go to one of his dependents and I will check whether the dependencies can be prepared or not. Okay, what all dependencies of bread dependencies are yeast and flour. So first then I will check whether yeast can be prepared or not. Since yeast is one of my supplies, then straight away I will return yeast can be prepared. Okay, next I have to check the flour, whether flour can be prepared. Flour is part of my supply, then flour can also be prepared. As a result bread can be prepared then I will say bread is prepared. Then I have to check whether this can be meat can be prepared or not. Since meat is part of my supply, then again I will say meat can also be prepared. Okay, so the idea is to apply DFS on this particular for each recipe we have to apply DFS, and then check whether the ingredients are part of my supply or not. If it is part of my supply, then it can be cooked, and then as a result we can return. We should take care of cyclic dependencies over here. Okay, so let's take an example. Let's say A is a recipe which is dependent on B. Let's say B is a recipe which is dependent on C, and C is a recipe which is dependent on A. Okay, so if you diagrammatically represent it, A, so A depends on B, B depends on C, and C depends on A. Okay, so as I mentioned, I will start from A and I will try to explore all the neighbors of B, and I will check whether the neighbors can be cooked or not. Okay, see, I will, in order to identify whether B can be cooked, I have to go for its neighbors and I have to check whether the neighbors can be cooked or not. In order to decide whether C can be cooked, I have to go for its neighbors and check whether A can be already cooked or not. So here I will basically maintain a map kind of thing where with the moment I'm start exploring whether A can be cooked or not, I will keep in the map saying that A can't be cooked. Okay, so once if all the dependencies says it can be cooked, then I will update A can be cooked, A can be finally cooked or not. If there is a cycle present, that means A can't be cooked, as a result C can't be cooked, as a result B can't be cooked, as a result again in the end A can't be cooked, because there is cycle present in it. Okay, so let's try to code it out. Okay, let's jump back to Leetcode and let's try to code it out. Okay, yeah, so here we have been in recipes, ingredients and supplies. Okay, so I should be able to identify by default all the supplies can be cooked, right? So I will maintain a map. Okay, which will contain my string, which will contain a recipe as a key, and a flag which will tell whether it can be cooked or not. Okay, so I have to first populate by default all the supplies can be cooked, right? So can cook, I have to first instantiate it. Okay, uh, and then I have to iterate through my supplies. Okay, for each supply in supplies I can mark them as they can be cooked. Okay, for each supply then I can mark it as cooked, right? So I have marked all my supplies can be by default can be cooked, right? Okay, since those are the leaf things, they can be always cooked because they are part of supply. I don't need any other ingredients to prepare these things, so by default they can be cooked. Okay, the next thing is I have to return result, right? I have to prepare an array which will contain what all recipes can be cooked among all these recipes. So I just initiated a list with result. Okay, for each recipe in recipes. Okay, I have to check whether it can be cooked or not. Okay, let's say can prepare. Let's have a function called can prepare, which will basically take this recipe and it will tell me whether it can be prepared or not. If it can be prepared, then I should include it my result, right? So in then I have to return my result. Okay, so here I have to define my prepare function. Okay, which will basically take a recipe. Okay, so as I mentioned, I will in order to decide whether a recipe can be prepared, I have to check whether all its ingredients can be prepared or not. Okay, so if the ingredient itself is a recipe, then again I should keep on exploring, right? So by default, okay, if if my if a recipe can be cooked, okay, if my recipe contains whether a if a recipe is part of this. Okay, it can cook map will contain recipe status. Okay, whether it can be cooked or not cooked. Okay, whether it can be cooked or can't be cooked, cannot be cooked. Okay, so if it contains my recipe, that means we have already seen the particular, we have already process that particular recipe, whether it can be prepared or not. Then straight away I can return uh, whether it can be prepared or not prepared, whatever it is. Okay, so if it is not part of my default if it is not part of my can cook map, that means I have to basically iterate through all its dependent ingredients, and then I have to check whether those can be prepared or not. Okay, first string. So first of all, for a given recipe I should be able to identify what all its ingredients are. Okay, so in the given problem, each recipe ingredients are present here, right? So uh, let's have let's have a mapping of recipe versus its ingredients. Okay, which is list of string mm, recipe ingredients. Okay, so I can instantiate it. Okay, after instantiating it I should also populate it. Okay, for uh, int I is equal to 0, I less than recipes length. Okay, so um, list of string ingredients recipe current current recipe ingredients. Okay, let's name it as current ingredients dot get I. Okay, so that is what they have mentioned. Okay, the recipe I ingredients are present at ingredients I. Okay, that is what we have taken, and then we have to map recipe ingredients dot put recipes of I, and then the current ingredients. Okay, now that we have prepared the mapping between the recipe and the ingredients, so we can straight away string for each ingredient in uh, recipe ingredients dot get recipe. We are actually retrieving the ingredients of this particular recipe. Okay, yep. So once we got the ingredients of a particular recipe, I should basically check whether it can be prepared cooked or not. Okay, if it can't be prepared, okay, then I can straight away return that it can't be prepared. If a particular ingredient can be prepared, then I have to check for other ingredients whether it can be prepared or not. So if it reaches the end, right, that means it the particular recipe can be prepared. Okay, that means I should also say that this recipe uh, can be prepared. Okay, so yeah, so if you straight away submit this like here we haven't take care of the cyclic dependency. So as I mentioned, if A is dependent on B and B is dependent on C, if C is again dependent on M, then it will be in the infinite loop. Okay, so what I have to do, the moment the the moment I've started checking whether it A can be prepared or not, so by default I will say that it can't be prepared. Okay, can cook dot put recipe, that I will mark it as it can't be prepared, and we'll try to check all its neighbors. If all the neighbors can be prepared, that means if all the neighbors are prepared, then I will map it back that it can be prepared. If one of the dependencies when says that it can't be prepared, right, so here I marked it as false, and then I will go here, I will mark it as false, since because I'm still not sure whether its dependencies can be prepared or not. From here I will go here, right? Since A is already a process previously and it can't be prepared because it is still under process, right? So since I've already, since A is under process and we're trying to prepare it, so we'll again return back that saying that C can't be prepared and B can't be prepared. As a result, A will be A will be in the same state that it can't be prepared, right? So that is what the thing. Okay, let's try to submit this. Okay, what are we getting? Okay, so there is one more error I can see. So if we see this particular uh, test case, we have a recipe called bread, and we are uh, res- in order to check whether B can be prepared, then I will check the neighbors of these things. Okay, so here the floor is not part of my supply, so it won't be, we haven't marked it so far whether it can be prepared or not, right? So like if I've encountered a recipe which is not part of any of the recipes in the given list, and if it is not part of the supplies, then straight away it can't be cooked, right? Without having its recipe or its ingredients, I can't cook it. So I should basically, if the current recipe does not have any ingredients, okay, if recipe ingredients contains key of recipe, okay, if it does not contains any recipes, then straight away I should basically return it as false, right? I don't see it as a part of my supply, because if it's part of my supply, or if it is if it was already processed previously, then we would have returned straight away. But it is not part of the supply, and it is, and I don't see any other recipes also, so straight away, and this recipe does not have any ingredients also associated with it, so as a result we should return it as false. Let's try to submit this. Yeah, now all the test cases were passed. Let's try to submit the solution. Yep. So all the test cases were also passed, right? So yeah, that's all about this problem. It's more or like a directed graph where where a particular recipe is depending upon its ingredients, and it might also contain the cycle. So we should take care of the cycle test cases as well. So yeah, that's all about it. Yeah, do subscribe to my coding channel for more such coding videos. I will be posting every day one coding problem. Thank you.